Alright, this is part 2 of chapter 8 lecture videos, and we're gonna continue talking about our classes and objects. And we have today the first topic is mutable and immutable classes, and that's a very easy concept to grasp. So remember how our classes that I showed you, the one that we created, had mutators, which is another word for setters and getters. So if your class has those, your class is mutable. If your class does not have those, your class is immutable. And the difference is that your mutators, setters and getters, they will allow your instance fields to be changed. Now, in an immutable class, your instance fields cannot be changed. So they are set, and they are set there for the rest of that object's life, basically. That's all you need to know. Now, what are the benefits to not allowing your instance fields of an object to be changed after they're initialized? Well, there's a couple. First of all, those classes are very simple to design, very easy to understand. Second of all, the internal state of your object, it never changes. So you know that those values are staying the same no matter what happens in your code. So it's just going to be easier to debug your code that's going to use that object, because you will get rid of one thing that might be causing the problems, those mutators. So that's another thing. You do not have to make any defensive copies of your objects that are immutable. So in case something goes wrong, you do not have to make any copies of those objects. And they are safe to use in a multi-threaded program. And a multi-threaded program, it's a little bit of a different how do I say it? It's a different concept, and I don't think we're going to be covering it, but if you're really interested, you can Google multi-threaded program and you can see what that is. But it's basically a program that's going to be using multiple CPUs instead of just one. So there are a couple of rules or guidelines for whenever you're creating your immutable classes. Well, first of all, your class should be declared as final in the class header. And remember that final is a way to create constants in Java too. So whenever you want to create a variable that will not be changed, you put the keyword final. So the same way it goes for the classes. You need to put final in your class header. Now, all of your variables, they need to be declared private and final. So basically, you're creating a bunch of constants inside of your class. And your class should have a constructor that's going to initialize all of the class fields. However, you will not have any mutators. You cannot have any mutators, any setters or getters. So those should be non-existent in your class. And if your class has a certain field that is a mutable object, then that same class, it should not have any accessor or any setter method that's gonna return a reference to that field. Instead of that, your method should actually make a deep copy. And remember, we talked about a deep copy of an object in part 1 of this chapter. And then it should just return a reference to that copy. A reference variable that is declared final, it cannot point to any other object than the one that it has been initialized with. In this case, is the cell phone object, and it's going to be an error if you try to reassign a reference to that variable. However, you are allowed to change certain fields if your object is mutable. In this case, we are changing the M75 model to M75, and we're setting the retail price to $899.99. Now, the next thing we're going to cover is enumerated types. And enumerated is known as enum, E-N-U-M, that stands for enumerated. You have to declare your enumerated type and define it as a class. This is the syntax, enum. Then you type whatever name you want it to have, and then you put your constants. In this case, we're creating an enumerated type of days: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And in this case, we are declaring a work day instance of your enumerated type day. Here's how you would assign that a certain value from your definition into your enumerated type. In this case, you just say day, workday equals day dot and whatever value you want it to have. In this case, we want it to have Wednesday. So enum is just a specialized class, and basically what it means, it just has all of these objects. So these are just objects: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, I don't know what else to tell you about this topic. It's just a way to create a certain objects that you want to have to hold certain values. Here are a couple of methods that your enumerated types will use. To string ordinal equals compare to. You can pause this video and read about these. Yeah, you don't have to dive in too deep into the enumerated types because we're not going to be using them in this class. This is just for your own knowledge that this exists in Java. Yeah. Now let's recall, remember garbage in, garbage out, a concept that was in PLD 101, which just meant that if you get garbage input, you will get garbage output. So in this case, there's another term that has a word garbage in it, garbage collection, and I do not want you to mistake the garbage collection for the garbage in, garbage out, because these are two different things. Now, garbage collection just stands for the fact whenever you no longer need your objects, you should destroy them. So that's not only gonna free up your memory, but that just also gonna get rid of any unnecessary information that might be causing problems, and it's just gonna make your debugging process harder. Now, how do you do that? You simply need to set your reference to null, and Java will reclaim that memory for you. Now, let's look at how it's doing that. There is a thing such as garbage collector in Java, and it's just going to reclaim any memory from any object that no longer has a valid reference pointing to it. And in this case, we're creating a bank account object, account1, and we are assigning the value to 500. Now, we're creating another object that is going to have a reference of the account 1. So basically, account 1 and account 2 are going to be pointing to the same object, just like this address, and then this one is going to be pointing to the same bank account object. Now, however, if you run a statement account 1 equals null, this assignment right here, this pointer, is going to disappear. So only account 2 will be left pointing to this object. If you run a statement account 2 equals null, then nothing will be pointing to that object at all, not account 1 or account 2. And since there will be any valid reference to this object, this object is going to be available for your garbage collector to reclaim. So this memory is going to be reclaimed, and this object just will cease to exist. Now, if there is a method with the signature finalize, as you see right here, finalize, if it's included in your class, it will run before your garbage collector. Before your garbage collector will reclaim its memory. So garbage collector is a background thread, which just means that it's a background process. You are not controlling it. Your computer controls it, and we cannot actually determine when this finalize method will be run. And the last two things that we're going to talk about is class collaboration, and exactly what it means. Class collaboration is when two classes interact with each other, and so if your one object is collaborating with another object from a different class, it must have some sort of an idea on how to collaborate with that object, right? So it needs to have access to the second object's methods, and it should know how to call them. And the thing that helps with those are such things called CRC cards, and they stand for Class Responsibilities and Collaboration cards, and they are useful for determining whatever responsibilities of your class are. So what your class should be knowing and what your class should be doing. In this case, see, these are all of the responsibilities of a class stock. And this is all I had for today. Let me know if there are any questions and reach out to me if there's something that you're not understanding. I will try my best to explain it to you further. Bye.